The Cultural Council's mission is to nurture, promote, and support a healthy, diverse, and inclusive cultural sector so that the arts and culture are a part of everyday life for everyone. We invite listeners to discover Florida's cultural capital online at palmbeachesculture.com. Welcome to another episode of the Artie Grop podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Lapierre, and I'm here today with wonderful guests. I'm so excited to have them on. Trina Burks and Anthony Burks Sr. They are an amazing power couple duo who have been impacting Palm Beach County arts and beyond for decades. They are artists, curators, founders of the No More Starving Artists nonprofit. And I have a lot of questions, guys. So thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having us.
Of course. We want to get into some background first, of course. You know, there's people who want to know more about you, me included. I'm excited for some of these questions, but you both have such a rich artistic background. Trina, you have a arts family legacy. There are multiple artists in your lineage. And Anthony, you've been a fantastic career artist here and a Florida native. So I wanted to ask, first up, is art a calling for you? Would you call it that?
For me, yeah. What's ironic is that my father wanted me to be an accountant. So by the time my junior year came, I realized that was not happening. Not because, first of all, it's boring. You know?
You don't have to explain that to me.
But the other part of it was I was taking all these math courses and kind of took a turn that I did not expect. But in the meantime, when I first started high school, I made sure I had my art classes lined up no matter what. So by the time junior year came around, I was like, oh my God, I need this. It's called a Regents degree in the state of New York. And my teacher told me, well, guess what? You can get a Regents diploma for art. I was like, say no more. So that's when I took my path. I realized then that was what I was going to do. I didn't know how or what I was going to do. I just knew that that was what I was going to do.
Yeah, that was a priority direction. What about for you, Anthony?
Well, I was born to be an artist, day one. As for my family, one thing I love about my mom and dad, they never pushed me away from the arts. Mm-hmm. They never told me that you can't survive or you need to get a bigger job and all that kind of stuff. So they allowed me to be me. And from there, the same thing when I got into high school, same thing. My art teachers, that's after all the basic classes was done. All right, guys, I got none left for you. I'm going to give you a room. Y'all got an A unless you don't show up. And she allowed me to develop who I am today as an artist. Mm. And again, I didn't really realize where I was in my art world until I did a program called The Bridge, in which that was at the Northwood Museum. Bill Nix was the what you would call him.
It was like the moderator.
The moderator for the event. And what it was is that it was 10 Black men on the stage. And what they said at the beginning was that the audience is not involved. It's just you guys. I'm going to ask you questions. No one's allowed to say anything in the audience. They are not there. There's a wall there. I want you to express yourself and answer the questions that he threw. I found myself at the beginning not catching on. Or was all these doctors and people who've been in the military and been to these big colleges and, you know, did a lot of things in their lives. And the mic just kept passing me. And to the point that towards the end, he asked a question, and I don't even remember what the question was. I stopped the mic, and I basically told them about me and what my dad did for me. his blueprint was different from these guys here. I said, I praise all of you guys, but I didn't live that life that you live. Everything has been art. And literally the audience ignored the thing. They did like a standing ovation because not that I was the only one just really telling the truth. I was the only one who was real that day. The rest of them was trying to impress
The crowd.
Was
the crowd.
putting forward a certain.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I got it. And again, because some of the question was towards, expressing their success. As for myself, I didn't know what my success was other than that I'm an artist. And that's the first day I accepted myself as a master of what I do. And that was, how long ago was that? That was
a while ago.
That was a while ago. That was the first time I really accepted my role and really accepted that I'm here for a purpose.
Pre-pandemic. So that's what you have to do, pre-pandemic, post-pandemic.
Yes.
So.
But I mean, that's a really kind of powerful point to remember in your journey, right? To have that as like a pivotal moment of accepting that role and embodying that success or no, you are the artist. That role is you. And that in itself is,
Like I have to praise my parents because again, they never ever. My dad was the man that I called him the true hustler, and he just wanted me to make sure I was able to take care of my family. Yeah. So he's like, you got to get a job, Anthony, in the arts or some sort. So he just, the only he knew was the sign company. You got to get in the sign. You can do billboards and stuff. And I'm like, really, Dad? That's not what I want to do, but okay, but thank you. And what I did, I wound up being in the sign business for 20 some years. So I kind of listened to my dad, in the way that he planted the, I need to be able to take care of family first. And, the art is always going to be there.
Yeah. And now it has been. I mean, I've had the privilege of seeing many of those successes that you've had in your career and, being present at exhibits or openings or things where, you have beautiful work on display and the impact that it holds for the community here. And it, we're going to get into more of that and to how, both of you have impacted the community, certainly. But I'm happy to know those, those early points in those directions where, yes, whatever you want to call it, calling or not, it is always been there.
It's always been there.
That, and I think that's, true to some level with, I would say, most people I've talked to on this podcast, whether they accept it early on or they put it aside until later years when they're ready to accept it or feel that they're ready to accept it. But it's, I think, something that's always there.
Very true.
You have it. So you guys met at the Art Institute of Fort Lauderdale. Love at first sketch. What was going on?
No, not at all.
No.
I always joke he was kind of the nerd, and I was a wild child when I went down. I literally had the opportunity to go to schools anywhere in New York City because that's where I'm from, and I chose to go to Fort Lauderdale. And I think Craig McGinnis and I joke about this. I think it was a con. They used the Art Institute, making you think, oh, like Chicago.
Right, the name of it.
It was not like Chicago. By the time we got there, it was a really cool school. It was like real high tech at that time. I lived right off the beach, so I was a party child. When I saw him, I was like, come on now. I was in there, I did my work, and I was out. He was like, so
dedicated.
And we had mutual friends. That's how we met. But I was on my own journey of not trying to figure out myself, really. But then what ended up happening, we started hanging out more, and we laugh about this. He asked me out, but I didn't know he asked me out.
Oh, okay.
I thought it was just like friends hanging out.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
But from there, he actually made me pivot because I almost did not graduate because of, just being in my own head for a long time. And he helped me get through it. He taught me color pencil. So I learned a lot of stuff from him and just how to understand what my role is in the arts, period. You know what I mean? So like, again, he was a fine artist. I wanted to learn everything about the arts, not just the painting and the drawing, but I wanted to know the photography and layout, those kind of things. And he kind of pushed me to, stop it. Don't freak out about it. Just do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it took about a year or so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't love at first sketch.
That's right. Some of those stories, like I've been with my partner for 13 years now, and we were friends for a solid year before we ever got together. It's just, and we went to school together too. And, we're kind of on sort of different paths, but then things eventually aligned onto the same path. So
Yeah.
it's wonderful that you guys have been a part of your journey together so long, and that art has always been a part of that
Yes.
for you. That's pretty amazing, as artists, to be understood is huge, right? Like not just by your peers, but by your person.
Right. I think had one of us not been an artist, I don't think it would have lasted. Honestly, like if he was, I don't know.
Yeah. If you were an accountant.
Right. If I was, I wouldn't be here.
I always felt it was meant to be, regardless of where we were at. It was meant to be.
Yeah. Do you feel like in general, do you have that kind of mentality approach towards life, like where, things align as they're meant to be?
Yes,
and you just,
absolutely. I always feel that everything happens for a reason. My father always used to say that to me. It's going to happen when it needs to happen, not when necessarily you want it to. So, yeah, in the case of us, I believe that's
my
the
son
truth.
asked me the question a few days ago about if I had a chance to change anything, would I? Because he saw the ups and the downs trying to be an artist. And I just told him, no, everything was meant to be. Everything was meant to be. And no, I wouldn't. I mean, a couple little things, but majorly, no, I say everything was meant to be what it needs to be.
Yeah.
My ups and my downs in the art world, and trying to be a good father, trying to be a good husband. And I think I did the best for what I had to work with.
Yeah. And it's so hard to, like, of course, if you're in a hard moment, you want to pick and choose and be like, well, yeah, I would eliminate that. I don't want to go through those feelings, those times, those low points, but then you never know what is on the other side of a low point and what lesson might be learned, what benefit, whether directly to you, to your community, to your family, to somebody else out there who needed something.
Yes.
You just, we can't know those impacts, which, makes going through it difficult, but at the end of the day, it's hard to say you would change anything because.
And I'm an open book. I don't use they're not failures. It's just things in life. I don't want that to be something that I hold on to that would stop me from growing.
Sure.
Or stopping someone else from growing, because I talk a lot when I do talk. And I always try my best to encourage other people to do better from what I did not do good at. And so that's where I hold myself. So when my son asked me the question, I just told him, look, I said, nah, I'm good. I'm good.
And I feel like people don't learn from successes. They learn from mistakes. So yes, there are things maybe I would have changed a little bit, but overall it was meant to be, period.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's just one of those where you don't know until you're on the other side of things, positive or negative, how they're going to impact the long term of your life or somebody else's life. And we just kind of have to play things out sometimes. And it's life.
That's it.
It's life, We gotta laugh and we gotta enjoy and we gotta do what we can to get through sometimes, but you just got to keep moving forward. That's the thing. And, with my art business, as we were talking about earlier off camera, there's ups and downs and times of great success, times of great struggle. But the key is to always move forward, whether it's little tiny steps, incremental, or, running a marathon, and it changes yearly, monthly, sometimes weekly, but just moving in a direction forward is always the thing, right? Big or small. So I want to talk about your art styles. You have definitely two distinctive voices, and I know sometimes they cross over and they collaborate. But can you walk us through your creative processes, things like, the mediums that you're kind of focused on now in your recent career? And Anthony, why don't you start for us?
Wow. As for myself, again, I had an art teacher again. She gave us all the tools to work with. But what I love about her is that Miss Grandusky, is that she, at the end, say, look, guys, I can't teach you anything else. It's time for you to learn from yourself. And I chose color pencil. And I chose it because I had a guy at my school. Oh my God, I can't remember his name. This guy, what he can do with a pencil was ridiculous. And I'm like, I got to figure this out because he didn't want to teach me. I had to figure this out. And it took me about 4 years after school to really figure it out and get where he was at in high school. I don't know where he's at right now in his art world, but thank you. But color pencil has been there. And recently I'm getting older. So hands are starting to get a little tight and stuff. So I had to pivot. I had to find a way to still do what I love to do, but change it up a little bit. So I started getting into charcoal.
Okay. Yes.
So the charcoal, I never learned how to really do charcoal. I really just experimented and got to the point that I'm comfortable with it now. And then watercolor. Watercolor is my background. Basically, I tell people all the time, before I do my color pencil work or my charcoal, sometimes I outline it in watercolor. Then I come on top of it and finish it with it.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, your pieces have so much life in them. In fact, we've got one behind us. If you want to share a little bit of detail about that piece that you brought in today.
That piece there is, there's I always get the name wrong.
Rare Species Conservatory in Loxahatchee.
Yeah, she's my bike. But this group here, they take these beautiful animals here, birth them, get them prepared to go back in real life. And then they basically put them on a ship and take them back to where they came from.
Wow.
Either Brazil or Africa.
Wow.
And we was doing a fundraiser. I do a lot of demos. This was a demo I was working on at the time. And the person that bought it is the person that runs the nonprofit. And it's my series I do called Rooted Ground. Rooted Ground is basically, I tell people the story of the tree is you. Without your soul, your spirit, who are you as a person? Same thing with the tree. The trees, no one's out there feeding those trees. No one out there watering these trees. The roots are the source of its life, and it's what brings them to life. And they've been around a lot longer than us. And so I started this with the tree first, and then after that, I started throwing the animals in there. So the animals, all my pieces represents me. And sometimes I don't feel like I'm heard, so I create it. No one's listening to the trees. No one's hearing that tree. No one knows what that tree is thinking. So I took over and said, you know, what is the last thing that was underneath that tree at some point? And the tree is now creating it with its roots. So that's what the whole series is based off of, with the animal underneath. And I had to tell some people the animal's not dead.
Right.
It's not underground.
It's not on the ground.
Yeah.
It's the tree's brain and soul that's telling the story of that animal.
Yeah. That's pretty incredible. I love that. That's something I didn't know about those pieces. And I've seen, multiple of this series before. I saw something just recently online and it seemed silly, but so poignant at the same time. Somebody was talking about feeling all caught up in their life and their success and their direction and their timeline of like, am I making the right progress in the right amount of time that I need to be? And she was like, I'm going to go outside and talk to a tree and see what the tree tells me. And the tree said, the version of success for me is I've been standing in the same place for 100 years. I haven't had to move. I haven't had to change. I'm just being a tree here in the same place. And that's success. Just that it's existing. There's no timeline. There's no, I need to move somewhere in order to, it was just a pretty point that I really liked. And it makes me think of, those pieces that you have there.
Thank you. Thank you.
So what about you, Trina? Tell us about, your styles. I know you're multidisciplinary. You like to get into different mediums. Writing is one of them. Poetry. You're also a painter and mixed media. True?
Mixed media. Yeah. So when I got out of college, I started doing a lot of these commissions and it was all realism. And I was so burnt out from that because I'd been doing that through high school and college. I was like, okay, another commission for another portrait of another baby. So I kind of went in a different direction. I started getting more into surrealism and abstract work. So I really I love working with the pencil, but I like working in acrylic also. And then most recently, in the last few years, I've been getting back into collage work. So part of what I do, a lot of times people will book me to do these collage classes because it kind of allows you to play with words and visuals, and you can implement anything into it. So if I'm in the mood to throw in paint, or if I'm in the mood to put in, found objects, I can do that. And it speaks my voice.
Yeah.
And as far as the writing side, it's kind of ironic because I never thought I was even going to be a published author at all, let alone write a book. So I had been keeping a journal since childhood. So when I was 9, my mom passed away, and my best friend gave me a journal to start just documenting stuff, whatever little girls write. And over the years, I kept going back to some of the stuff I was writing. I was no longer really writing my day-to-day stuff. I just started writing thoughts, feelings. So the first book that I put out was a lot of the information that I put into those journals, but speaking in the voice of an adult. And there was one piece in particular that was kind of playing both roles. It was kind of the adult in me versus the 16-year-old. And it was pretty fulfilling because I was able to release a lot of stuff. And I was also able to incorporate other people in the journey. So my family has artwork. Anthony has artwork in it. My sons have work in there. Friend of mine from New York, he contributed something. Wow. And then after that, I just continued. So I did another book, and I did a call for someone to contribute one of the pieces. And it was the first time that person ever got published. Someone I had never met from another part of the country, and had someone edit and look through it. And they were like, I really like this one. So we were always doing collaborations. Even within my writings, I will do that. And just took off. Then one day my son was going through some recipes. He's like, you know what? He's like, you have all these recipes from your from grandma. Why don't you make a book out of that? I'm like, you mean a cookbook? He's like, yeah, that would be cool. So then that's what started me on doing a cookbook. So I'm one of those scattered artists. When I'm doing business, with my artistic side, I tend to do like this. I get bored real easy.
Yeah. So, I mean, I understand that. There's something that I've had a focus in for a long time, but I have all my little side hobbies, things that I pull in, and, shifts that I make for myself that keep the brain like, ooh, I got to try this. I got to experiment over here. Maybe a version of it will subtly flow into what I'm doing professionally. But those things that keep things interesting and the spark jumping, and maybe that's a little bit of ADHD. I don't know. And I'm fine with that. But yeah, I understand that, that desire to, I got to try some other versions of this and see how I can communicate my voice in this medium.
Right.
And how that is maybe perceived differently, or if it reaches a different audience because it's a different medium. Right?
Exactly.
So this is one of the cookbooks that you brought with you, actually, right?
This is the second one that I did. And this one, so the contributions are family, friends, and then like working with kids, because I work in the nonprofit sector. So some of the recipes come from recipes we've done. In this particular one, there was a lot of people who were either vegan or vegetarian. Okay. They liked the idea of some of the recipes, but they were like, but I don't eat meat, or I don't eat whatever. So I came up with some options for vegan versions of stuff that I've done. Because I was raised around Southern folks and Puerto Rican folks. So that's meat. But I respect the fact that a lot of my peers do not eat meat. So I came up with some options.
So let's just give this a plug right now. This is so much more from scratch too. Yes. And where can we find this?
On Amazon.
All right. Good. This is wonderful. And this beautiful artwork on the cover.
That's Anthony.
That's all Anthony right there. That's fantastic.
Actually,
another collaboration.
Pieces of art. He did the portrait separate and he did this separate. So that's the cover of the first book.
That's wonderful. Tell me about this portrait, because it's an interesting one.
Yeah.
We have these 2-3 o'clock in the morning talks. And one of the biggest talk has always been that we're not heard. And one of her biggest things is that I want people to understand me, but they don't. And with me, when you put something in my head, I don't care what it is, it's going to get created. So I pretty much created this piece to let her know that this cloth is not a brick wall. we can't hear you. So that's where her mouth is open in the
Yeah,
belly.
you can see it. Yeah.
And then how strong her belief was in her Catholic religion. So all that is tied into the piece. But the main thing was to let her know that you are being heard. You might think we're not hearing you, but we're hearing you loud and clear. Especially me.
That's a great cover for the book
and
too.
her favorite color is orange. So that's what the orange came from.
Very nice. I love that. These collaborations, they keep things interesting, I'm sure, too, whether it's amongst the two of you or, like you said, you're pulling in other artists. Anthony, I wanted to ask you as well. You've had work acquired by the Norton Museum of Art and featured in a Tyler Perry production, I heard.
Yes.
What does it feel like to see your work go from, an idea in your brain to the sketch pad to the walls of a museum?
Well, first, she's the reason why I'm in the Norton. She's the reason why Tyler Perry hopefully knows about me. Because, again, artists is driven through me. I don't create to be recognized like that. I have to create because that's my lifeline. And but the Norton was the one that really touched me the most, because all my life I've been saying I want to leave something behind in my community, because I always felt that the community don't hear us. Because we're not loud. We're not one of those people that just got to show about who we are and what we do. And so we get kind of left behind in the dust. And when the Norton came along, because we on all of the boards, I'm not the board, but the committees that they do at the Norton, we get asked a lot to come and give our voice. And one time, it was COVID, right? It was around COVID, in COVID.
Like right before COVID and then rolled into COVID.
I actually had a client that I was talking to at the time, so I was late to the Zoom. And when I came back from the Zoom, they was showing the artwork that's going to be shown for one of the programs they was putting together for, I think it's the
Celebrating Black Florida.
Yes. And I was looking at the artwork and I'm like, it's all right, but is any of this work local? Any of these artists Black and alive? And not that they couldn't answer me. One of the curators at the time, me and her never met before. She said, "Hey, Anthony, my name is blah, blah. And I just want to let you know I've been watching you." I'm like, okay, that's great. But I wasn't really doing it for me. I was doing it for the community. I'm like, I'm just trying to, we're on this committee. So I want to make sure that you understand that if you want this community to respect this location, if you want this community to love what you're doing, you need to include them.
Involve them.
So that's the reason why I'm saying what I'm saying to you. And she said, no, I've been, again, watching you for a while. I want to come see your studio. And I'm like, all right, great. So when she came into the studio, I have a routine at the studio. At the time we had 21 artists in the space. I take them on a tour. So I go from the back to the round I'm always the last artist to be seen. So I did that with her. She was there for me. I wanted to let her know that these other artists are here too. And that you might want to, peek at them as much as you're peeking at me. So we did the tour. We got to my room afterwards. I had all this artwork that laid out. Oh my God, I don't know how many pieces I put out for her to see. But she showed no interest at all. I'm like, okay, did she like it?
He thought he shouldn't.
So
she wasn't giving anything away.
Zero. Yeah. So she left. Trina called me and said, "How did it go?" I said, "I don't know." I couldn't read her to save my life. And I said, I'm just going to rope up and say, hey, and this curator came to my studio from the Norton. They saw my work. And the event happened. I just had a gut. I'm like, because normally Trina stays on me because anything outside has always been a disaster for us. Either the wind is raining, something happens. So I'm like, should I bring these big pieces of art?
It was actually for Juneteenth.
It was Juneteenth. And I'm like, should I bring? So I'm going to bring these pieces. So she was mad at me. She's like, here you go again, Anthony. You don't learn from your lessons. Why are you bringing these huge pieces to this showcase? I said, I want to show me off. That's why. I said, I'm doing this demo for them and they need to see Anthony Burks. So I did that. And at the time I was creating a piece. And when I'm in my zone, I don't hear nothing or see nothing. This is in my zone. Yeah, and they are in the background talking about what's going on with these pieces I brought and what I'm working on. And she tapped me on the shoulder and said,
did you hear what happened? I mean, everybody else heard. Scott Jeffries was there at the time. And so before that, he was painting and I was talking to people and telling them about what we do. So one of the pieces he brought was from a show. We curated a show for the Cultural Council. One was called How Do We Move Forward, which was the answer to George Floyd. And the other one was the Caribou Show. So there was a piece there from that show. So I think what it was is that she saw that piece and that was the one that kind of motivated her to talk to the director. So the director and the curator come over and the director's like, we need to talk business. And he's clueless. Scott's like, what's going on? And I'm like, okay. He's like, so he was asking me about pricing, how we price the work. And then he was asking me about the piece Anthony was working on. He's like, is that claimed by anybody? I said, no, he actually is doing a collaboration. The Fist is of an artist here in Florida. I don't know if they have any plans for it. I think it's just for the demo for the event because it's, Juneteenth. And he's like, okay, well, I want that piece, which was the piece that we had been exhibiting. And the piece he's working on, when he's finished, I want that. So Scott was like, okay, I'm going to back up a little bit. Y'all going to talk. Yes. And so he left. And I was like, oh, okay. So they gave me a receipt just proving that they were going to make the investment. So he's still drawing away, like
in the zone, not hearing anything.
I go, did you hear what just happened? And he's like, no, what? He didn't even really know they were there. I said, the Norton just is going to be purchasing the piece you're working on and Mirror Black. He looked at me like, really? I said, yeah, it's going to be in their permanent collection.
Yes.
And that's how it happened.
So that's always been my bucket list to have something left behind for me. So I basically achieved something that I've been hoping will happen at some point. So it was a great time. It still didn't hit me until like a week or two later, after the pieces was basically packed in the car and ready to take to them. And again, it's something that I cherish a lot. And they don't bring it out as much as I love for them to say. Because people always ask me, so where's your piece?
Sure.
And I'm like, well, it came out once. It was out for about 6 months, but you might want to knock on that door and ask them to bring it out again. But again, I'm honored to be part of the Northern Museum. And it's one of my biggest achievements in my time. And as for other things, my last one was PBS. They did a special me in my work, and that was the first time I was able to just relax, tell Anthony Burks. And I didn't know what they were going to keep, what they were going to take away, because I was real. I'm an open book. I don't hold nothing back. I don't try to make myself bigger than what I am or less. I'm just going to tell you the blunt truth. And Miss Burks always pulling me, Anthony. But again, that's just me.
Yeah.
Who I am.
I mean, it makes me so happy that this is an achievement for you that's been fulfilled within your lifetime.
Yes.
Isn't that wonderful?
Absolutely.
I mean, it's just beautiful that, a lot of times when we think of these kind of successes that happen for artists, they might be
not here anymore,
not a part of this world anymore in the same way. And it's just wonderful that this has happened.
Yes.
And it's wonderful. And yet I think maybe we should do a little bit of like, hey, we want to see this collection out more, And I get it. People probably don't, for the most part. The average person might not understand how much is actually in a museum's permanent collection that is not shown, or how often things actually get rotated, what kind of exhibits they get pulled for. So, and there's so much behind the scenes. But
the nature of his work too, because it's on paper, they have to protect it. So like if you ever know artists that have works on paper and many permanent collections, they don't keep it out for a long period of time because it can be, between the lighting and just the atmosphere, the temperature. So they do keep it protected. So.
Yes.
Well, it's incredible that it's there and a part of that permanent collection.
So,
yeah.
They own it.
Always, pop my call on that one.
And I think you should, you definitely deserve to. Trina, I wanted to ask you more about between curating exhibitions, publishing books, teaching everywhere from classrooms to correctional facilities, and being a part of launching No More Starving Artists. Do you sleep?
No, well, I do, but I don't. I'm one of those.
Where do you have the time?
I'm up at like 4 a.m.
Yeah.
Like when I was writing, I would probably about 3 o'clock, I would get up and start at the computer, and Anthony would be like, "Where are you going?" That sometimes that's when it works, and I get my best work out early in the morning.
Yeah.
And then after about 7, I take a nap, and then I get back up at about 9:30. So yeah, I'm like a weird sleeper because I'm always thinking. There's always something in my head.
Yeah.
Always.
Between those kind of things, or maybe something else, if there's one that I haven't touched on, is there one, achievement path or, one of these initiatives that you've been a part of that's made you go like, yeah, I did that?
Besides the publishing part, I think the first big exhibition that we did at the Armory, which was the Collaboration African Diaspora exhibition, that was like a lot of moving parts. That kind of fell in our lap as we went. And one of the bigger things that we did, we were able to get like a major international sponsor for that. We got Bombay Sapphire to sponsor that. And it also turned out one of the photographers that had an exhibition that opened that same night, he photographed this gospel band. They performed at the event. So that was something, just seeing all the things come to fruition. The goal for that show was kind of like a Harlem Renaissance concept where we were incorporating music and art and literature. So I did another call for integration of different women, and we produced a book called The Mighty Nine, and it was 9 Black women writing their perspectives of life as writers. A couple of them went to high school with me, but I had someone who judged it that was not biased. So they got to like go through all those submissions. And it was really cool because each weekend we had a different event going on. And when I looked at it from different perspectives, like photography, when people took photos, there was, I got honored the same year from the Delta Sigma Theta for an award. So they shot footage of the show. So I got to see it from different perspectives. And I was like, wow, like I would have never thought we would have ever done anything like that. So that was probably, we've done so many different things, but that was one of the ones where I could still go back and I'm like, that was amazing. And I had work in the show, which is rare because I rarely put work in any of the shows we do. So I had work in that also.
Yeah, that's got to be one of those things that really satisfies that multidisciplinary soul, we'll call it, where you have all of these elements that you've been, having separate maybe combine into this force.
I mean, it was cool because even when we did the book signing for the book, the 2 women who were my alumni from high school, I hadn't seen them for years. And they were a year older than me. So it was just cool to have all these different parts of my life intertwined into that one exhibit. It was just very, very empowering, actually.
So that kind of leads me into another question that I want to ask, and this is for both of you. Between, these exhibits that you've worked on and been a part of developing, is there any maybe behind the scenes stories that you could say, there's one moment that really impacted me, whether that's conversations that happened with somebody viewing the artwork and seeing it through their perspective, or, doors or windows that might have been open. Was there any kind of moments?
Mine is always after the shows, because we don't really make any money off these events that we put together, because its basic focus of getting these artists out there, letting them know that you can do this. And we kind of put ourselves on the back burner. And every time we sit down at the end, Craig and Trina and I, are we going to do this again? Was it worth it? And always have a moment with one of the artists who will come to us after the show and say, man, thank you. If without you guys, I would not have taken this any farther than I'm doing right now. Or someone that sold their first piece of artwork through our show come to us and so I'm the guy, I'm the little angel on the shoulder to say, look, let's do it one more time. I know we said we wanted to stop. But that brings me back to earth. And it lets me know that, we are impacting this community. Sometimes we don't really get it shown our direction.
Absolutely.
So that's what the best thing for me with doing these events is that at the end that we touch someone to believe in themselves and know that they can survive as an artist.
Yeah, it's major.
Yeah. So Continuum got started because Craig recruited us. He actually went to the African Diaspora show. He had seen the work we were doing. We were doing festivals and he was part of that. But then he recruited us and we didn't know. We came from a show down in Miami and then we were like, oh, they're having this talk. So let's go and see what it's about. So we live in the Northwood district. And at the time there were a lot of galleries there. And people were coming up to us, you're leaving Northwood? And we're like, what are you talking about? No, we live in Northwood. And he's like, hold on, I'll let you know what's going on. So what it turned out was that he had started with Rolando Piero Art Synergy. So they were doing this collaboration with Art Palm Beach, doing these little pop-up locations around the county. So he knew we did pop-ups and we specialized in that. And like I said, there were galleries that were kind of self-contained there in Northwood. They didn't really need us. But they wanted something that was very close to Art Palm Beach, which was in the downtown West Palm Beach area, where we can take over a space and just invite artists to be a part of it. So we worked with the Downtown Development Authority for the city of West Palm. And from there, it just kind of happened. We had the relationship with Bombay Sapphire, so we brought them back. We had relationships with some of the restaurants, and we were able to put on this, what started as 2 weeks ended up being a 3-week event. And that was really exciting to see because it was we cherry picked at that time. We didn't do a call. We were like, well, we know this artist is really good with this. And it was just a really cool experience that we had never done on that level. We've done pop-ups. We did pop-ups in our home, but we never took over a space of that magnitude where we had to paint the walls and,
scrub the floors.
I mean, all the different weird things. But we also were able to get a substantial sponsorship to be able to facilitate it. So that's another example of something where I was like, oh my God, look at what this turned into. We made it to 9 shows. Even during the pandemic, we did something online. We haven't done our 10th year because the challenge of real estate has been the issue, really. If you don't have real estate, you don't have a pop-up. So we're still kind of working on that. But a lot of artists still come to us and ask us, when's the next Continuum? You know what I mean? So we kind of built the legacy around that one brand and people still ask for it.
And it is no small feat. That kind of work, so much behind the scenes, so much organization, so much guiding and hand holding and, whether initially you're cherry picking artists or you're doing eventual calls where people are submitting work and all of the extra work that goes into those steps besides forget also then lining up sponsors and having somebody keep the doors open for the 3 weeks that there's a pop-up.
That's right.
Somebody's manning the space and overseeing sales and making sure that work is, ends up in the appropriate places or, gets back to the artist safely. All of these things that go into a show. It's huge.
Sometimes again, at the end, we have this talking
like, I don't believe you're doing this.
Right.
How are we doing this one more time? Because again, not that the money is not important. I always looked at the value. All right, I'm in the show too. And that's the bonus that I'm going to be in the show. No one can tell me I can't be in my own show. We do get this. How you going to be in your own show? Because I'm doing all the work. So yes, I'm in my own show. So I need to sell my artwork as much as these artists do and put my name out there as much as these artists do. And sometimes the artists, sometimes they don't know what it takes to put these things together.
Oh,
So
yeah.
they don't know that we get an empty building with peeling paint in the bathroom.
Yeah.
No one will live in
And
it.
you got to clean up
And we gotta clean it.
the
And
palmetto bug that's on the
yes.
floor.
Right.
And
Yes.
like, yeah.
And we and we always have one show that we have an artist come, hey, Anthony, can you move that light a little bit over to the left? And I'm like, no.
You're lucky there's a light there.
Yeah,
'cause
you
these
are
places
really
don't
lucky there's a
have
light.
lights.
And sorry, no, I'm in my tuxedo. I'm not climbing on a ladder
Yeah.
to just like
Yeah.
you. But have a beautiful time. Go have a drink.
Right.
But again, I enjoy it.
Yeah.
She gets sometimes like,
Yeah, the two Geminis.
yeah, I
Like,
enjoy it because again, we're a team. We all have our
Mhm.
individual ways to putting the show together. We all have our part that we handle, and we all do it very well. And a lot of people don't see the background of what it takes to put these things together. And one thing we always say too, our reputation is involved in this here. So
Mhm.
we don't do a great show. We look bad. We're not looking bad for nobody. You not knowing what it took to put it together, and all the headaches of back and forth, or not knowing our building.
yeah.
Mhm.
Every single year, we literally find out our address about 2 or 3 weeks before the showcase.
Yeah.
And now I got to get it
And
to
literally
the printer.
even knowing what kind of walls
Yes,
do you have
exactly.
drywall? Do you have CBS? Do you have
Yes.
brick? Do you have, like,
But one thing we do that I honor is that the artists really trust us.
mm,
And we try not to ask them for more than I would like to be asked, but sometimes we have to go down that road and ask them to help. And they'll come out, and Trina's a business person. He's like, we got to figure out, we're going to pay these people to help us. I'm like, they're not going to take your money, Trina.
Mm.
But go ahead and offer. And then one time we had one building that, oh my God, we painted the floor. Craig did a mural on the floor for the runway for our fashion show.
wow.
And the guys went in, we had like a VIP area in the building. These guys went in and put these awesome murals on these walls. I'm like, oh my God. And we went to them, how much we owe you for this? Beer and pizza.
That's all they wanted. That's
and I'm
all
like,
they wanted.
okay, that's it. 3 or 4 days of them helping us clean these buildings up to get them ready for the public to come in and enjoy the artwork.
But it also tells you, it sends a clear message of those artists really perceiving the value of what this event brings to them, brings to the community, and, wanting to be a part of the support of something like that.
Yes.
Because
Mhm.
they might have been looking for that opportunity, but they weren't going to put the event on themselves. But they, you never know where people are looking to think, I want to give something.
Mhm.
I have my skill and I have some materials available.
Yeah.
I don't know how to put that together, but if the right opportunity comes along for them to give into something, a lot of people are willing to do that. They just don't necessarily know the availability and how to apply themselves into it.
We had a mixed bag. We had some very famous. We just lost one. Barry
Sideman
just passed away recently, and he was a shock to us. Like,
yeah, because
this famous artist want to be part of our showcase,
right? And he reached out to us. So like the first show he wasn't a part of, but the next one he applied. We did guerrilla style. That's why we finally used cafe, because it was.
Oh my gosh.
But Barry, though he had been around for a long time, he understood technology. So he was like one of the first ones to submit. And I saw his name pop in the queue. And at the time, Suzanne Redmond was helping me through. I was like, Barry Simon applied for this, and I was just shocked, because I was like, he could be doing anything.
Yes.
And I was really grateful to him because he believed in what we were doing.
Mm-hmm.
He saw the value in the events. He didn't even care about selling. He just really just wanted, first of all, we would always kick off his exhibition. So whatever he was going to be showing for the season, he would always choose our event because it was at the beginning of the year.
Wow.
So our event was where he would always showcase the new work. So I appreciated that.
Yes.
So we kind of thought, oh, he's going to be really difficult. He was the greatest and just funny. You know what I mean? And just, again, believed in what we were doing and really saw the mission. He did everything literally up until a show we did in Miami. We did a show in Miami during Basel, which I will never do that again. That was crazy.
I remember hearing some stories.
Yeah.
Yes.
the money that we had to raise, and he just he understood.
Yeah.
He was like, you know what, I'm going to do it. I can't be there, unfortunately, because I have a lot else going on, but I will be happy to partake in this. And he bought an ad because we had to sell ads in the catalog, and he just really got it. And I so appreciate that.
It gives you a little extra like juice, right? To live off of and know that, okay, maybe not every person we're getting through this exhibit exactly knows the details of how this all works and how to make our lives easier as curators and, event managers. But somebody out there gets it, and he's willing to be a part of it and say, I see what you guys are doing. I like it. Here's, not just being a part of it, but also, kind of potentially lending his power of his name and the fact that people are, coming to see his, like you said, his new work for this season is a pretty big deal too. So it's awesome when people
I know
surprise you like that, right? Like not only does he get it, the process, the behind the scenes, but also to have a great demeanor and just kind of somebody who's fun or better to be around.
It was so cute because at the opening, he made sure he wanted to get the 3 curators. Anthony was busy doing something. And so we have a picture, he, myself, and Craig together. He was like, no, we're going to take a picture together. I know you're busy, but we're going to take a picture. And I value that photo because it's so like, I look back, I was like, wow, he was just so
taking
cool.
the garbage out or something.
He was adjusting a light on a ladder somewhere.
But yeah, so it's, it's cool because sometimes you figure out, is this even worth it? Because I don't put work in the show. I'm like, I do everything else. I've taken time off of work, put time aside to do this, so I really sacrifice. So when somebody really appreciates it, it makes you feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like we kind of talked about earlier, you never know what the impacts are. I say that to artists when they ask me about doing art shows, people who are kind of maybe interested in exhibiting their work in that way. I always tell people, you have to remember the sales might not be upfront.
No.
They might not happen those 2 days of the event.
That's right.
Or the feedback you're going to get might not happen. It might not happen for 5 years. I've had people call me back 8 years later and say, I saw you and I followed you and I'm finally ready. I finally have the house. I finally, whatever the case.
Yep.
And it's not even also about the sales. It's about the impact of like somebody else. I've had so many stories because as you know, my dad was an artist too. He used to do all the art shows. He would do things, very generous man. If kids had an interest in his work, he was always particularly made time to talk to them, made time to talk to their family. Would usually, if they were looking through things, he would give them a print. He would sign something for them.
I'm your father.
Yeah. I mean, and you could see this little life start to brim over with excitement that somebody was taking time to take them seriously as a child and their interests seriously. And then of course, gift them something.
Yes.
I've had those people come back as adults now to me and say, your dad did this for me. I still have that print, or it's hanging in my mom's house. And I followed this path. I, whether became an artist or art has always been a part of my life, and I've given it the time that it deserves. And it's a special place in my life because this little spark happened. So that's my point, is that, you can't in the moment be like, oh God, is this all worth it? Because we've all been there. We've been there at art shows. We've been there at exhibits. We're at the end of the day, we're sweaty and we had to pack it all up, and maybe the sales happened and maybe they didn't.
Yes.
And you have to be like,
I have a thing that I do. I'm like your dad. Any young person that comes in my path, and if they take 5 minutes to look at my artwork, I ask the parents, is it okay if I give them something? I have my trees that I do. So I always do like 20, 30 trees. There's some trees around my room all the time. And I would ask them, all right, pick your color. I want you to pick your favorite color. And then this is what I want you to do now. You're now a collector. You have an original Anthony Burks. And I said, hopefully one day you're going to continue doing this. And hopefully one day, like you just said, that you come back and knock on my door and say, Mr. Burks, I remember you and I wanted to show you my collection of art that I've collected over the years. So I am dedicated. When I say kids, I'm talking about from teenagers to the little kids. I just had a couple, I thought there was a couple, there wasn't. They came in, they were looking for another artist. And I always ask this question with the older kids. Do you collect art? And the first word they said, no, we can't afford. I said, no. I'm not talking about affording one of my pieces right now. I said, there's a school out there somewhere. There's an artist out there that wants someone to love them. Their work is not going to cost you what my work costs. So go collect them first. And you just never know what gem you might get by supporting that artist. You don't know what you might do for that artist that will lift them to say, I can do this. So I do this on a regular. I'm always giving. My business partner here slaps me sometimes because I give a lot. Because my thing with my art is not about me making millions and millions of dollars. It'd be nice, but it's not my goal. I always want my work to be in the right hands. I want it to be remembered through my art. And if I can create the new generation of collectors, because the older ones are dying off right now. So it's getting a little more harder for artists like myself to sell, and people understand the value of my prices. So any opportunity I have to give a young person a spark as an artist or as a collector, I try to give it to them. And again, I say it all the time to artists, what's your purpose? Your purpose just to make money? Or your purpose to have this beautiful gift you're giving and share it to the world. Yeah,
that expands and leaves a positive impact of one direction or another. Yeah, absolutely. It's a really wonderful thing to see. And I have seen, which is such a gift to me, that I now get to experience those stories of the impacts that my dad left behind. And someday it's going to be your kids or somebody in your lineage or somebody in your own personal history, whether it's a friend or a family member who hears a story of how you impacted somebody later on. And those are just gifts.
Absolutely.
That, big or small, any little impact, even if it's just, man, that made my day. They're so important. They're so valuable. So we can talk more about some of that impact with No More Starving Artists. I would love for you to give me the elevator pitch, we'll call it, of what this foundation is and how it functions.
Let me start first.
Okay.
I was the person that booked her to death to start this nonprofit. Because people always tell us when we did these events, hey guys, y'all know y'all can make more money if you had a nonprofit. I'm like, Trina's not going to go for that because Trina is the nonprofit. I'm not. I'm just the person whispering in her ear. And I always try to encourage her to, hey, think about this. I think this can be a win for everyone. And on top of that, we get to a point that the government is not giving us the money to open up a building or do the things we do. So we have to find a way to keep this going. And so we have to have this nonprofit to do it. So I just want to let her know that she's appreciated and that this foundation is going to continue growing way after you because of what you've done to get it started. And me whispered in your ear.
So the mission is basically to help artists be sustainable professionally and personally. It started out, it was specifically for Palm Beach County, so primarily Palm Beach County artists, but we've helped artists from the entire state of Florida, and we help artists that are not even local or national, they're national. Maybe they're getting information off of our website. Maybe they're checking out a webinar that we're doing. So it's really to help the artist, guide them so they can have their lineage and their journey for themselves and have a legacy that they can be proud of. Because we constantly are talking about the legacy of our work. The irony is that, yes, he did put it in my ear. There were a few people that wanted me to start a nonprofit, but I worked for the nonprofit sector. I had no interest. And this is the story that he doesn't like for me to tell, but it's a fact of why I even bothered. So we went through a financial struggle where we almost lost our home. It was during, right after the 2008 crash and all that stuff. So 2011, he had lost his job and then he got sick. So there was like all these things and he was not able to apply for unemployment. So then stuff started happening. In the meantime, I was still working in the nonprofit sector. And it just so happens that one of the people that I was connected to, or we were connected to, had reached out to us for us to curate their daughter in an exhibition at Harold's Coffee House. They did fundraising. The children had a nonprofit. I thought it was fascinating. So their aunt was the one that helped them start their business and start their nonprofit. So she kind of took on the role of guiding me through the process of figuring out what I need to do to get out of this, situation with our home. So I was like, I just made it, and it sounds kind of goofy, but I made a promise to God, if I can save this house, I will start that nonprofit that everyone bugged me about. And she even told me that the attorney said, you will do so much better starting a nonprofit because all the things you are doing through your company, raising money for, scholarships and grants and all these things, but you can do so much more with this, being a 501c3. And if you need the help, I'll help you with that if you decide to do it.
Yeah.
It was kind of like that sales pitch that you're like, here we go. So she walked me through the process of getting from under that problem with the house. And I was like, okay, now I made this public promise. Now, mind you, it wasn't us by ourselves. Craig McGinnis and Suzanne Redmond started a fundraiser to help us also, and got all the artists, and they raised money and they sold art, and it was really cool. And that was kind of the vision that I saw from that promise and from what they did. I was like, well, these artists helped us because we had been helping them for all these years. So artists would come to us all the time, how did you do that? Like, I went through the same thing you did. I didn't have the resources of an attorney or, just like things that you don't think about. And I was like, you know what? I think there's a way to do this. So with Continuum kind of being the cusp of how we got to the artist, I figure we can use that. We've been doing some stuff with kids already through some of the other programs we were doing. Young Masters being one. We started Young Masters before it was called Young Masters. Anthony had been doing programming with young kids from Dreyfus for a long time. When we were running a gallery in Northwood and we were working with kids. So that was like an easy breezy thing. So we kind of put all these elements. And then coming from a family of alcoholism was another area I wanted to touch on with mental health. So these are some of the things that I felt was necessary that this nonprofit could kind of assist in with artists. A lot of it is about information. Yes, artists want grants. That would be great to always have a grant. But I think it was more about resources and having things like connecting them to the right people for what they need, providing them with an opportunity to exhibit. Some of these young people we worked with had never been in a professional exhibition until they either worked with us with Continuum or one of our, people that we worked with. He had his first professional show when we did this show called Boys to Men. And he sold his first piece of art. He was a photographer to one of our clients. So it was like giving all these people the opportunities that they would have probably not had until later on in their careers, So I feel that this nonprofit can really help more than just Palm Beach County. And we do a lot of partnerships. We do, like I said, workshops. And then Craig started Brass Tacks, and we kind of are a sponsor behind that. That's kind of one of the things that we want to continue to do, give out business information to artists, having them understand that your art is still a business. And we don't preach that at them. They come to us and we provide them with opportunities to express what they need.
Yeah.
And that's another resource that we provide through the nonprofit. So, yeah.
I mean, it's a big list and it's wonderful. There are so many artists, myself included, who, there's questions that come up along the career of like, ooh, don't have that answer, don't
Yeah.
even know who would have that answer. And it can be hard to find resources.
Mhm.
And again, it's one of those situations where you don't know what you don't know.
That's right.
So not everybody knows that there's grant programs available to them, or, they don't even know where to find the call to exhibits. I mean,
Mhm.
there's so many things that, and the avenues change, of course, as things have gone more digital, the
Exactly.
access has changed, and the information is findable or not findable sometimes. So having a place that's, particularly purpose driven to provide and say, here are opportunities, come talk to us, mentoring,
Mhm.
available. This is wonderful. I mean, it's a beautiful program.
Yes.
Well, one of the things that's interesting that a lot of people don't know is that we kind of spun off of an idea through the Artists of Palm Beach County. I was one of the steering committee members when they were founded literally 20 years ago now.
Mhm.
The For Artists by Artists concept. So that organization was actually founded by 3 other artists, Karen Hackman, Mark Garrick, and Terry Rybovich. A lot of people may not know that. And they brought me on as one of their board members. And it started out as For Artists by Artists, all disciplines, but it really started morphing more into the visual arts sector. I really took that to heart, and we actually started doing exhibitions in our home because some of the questions that they asked, they really needed a place to exhibit their work and meet other artists. So we're like, we can do that. But I really wanted to go back into the fact that there are artists of all disciplines. And a lot of times some of the other artists get neglected. They forget about the writers, they forget about the actors, they forget about the dancers and the performing arts. So one of the things that we want to drive home is that these are all art disciplines and they all deserve to have acknowledgement and support, however you can support them. So a lot of people have been asking about membership. One of the things that I really want to drive home is we will not start a membership until we have resources for all those different disciplines. Because we always find resources as visual artists. It's pretty easy if you really do the work, but it's not always easy for a poet, a spoken word artist. It's not always easy for a dancer. You know what I mean? I'm in the middle of writing another book for business of the arts for artists. And one of the things I really target is the fact that all the things that I'm providing as a resource can be used by any artist of any discipline, not just visual artists. People are like, oh, are you going to have pricing in there? I'll give you a resource to look that up because I can't tell a dancer how they price their work, with their performances. I don't have that kind of information. I can tell you how to price a visual artist's work, but I don't know anything about a singer, and I'm a writer, and it really depends on what I'm trying to do that will determine how I'm pricing that. So that's not really what I'm trying to do. I want them to be able to get information and know where to go for certain things. And also know what to look for. You can look at this documentary and you'll get some really great business advice from. You can look at this one book that might be for musicians, but actually there's content in there if you are a poet that you can use for your business. So that's what I want to provide.
This is a teach a person to fish situation. We're not, you're not like, there's not a secret path that you get to hand out and say, here's the answer to all your questions.
Because it's never going to happen.
It's not going to happen. It's just not. And, everything evolves anyway.
That's
so
right.
It's going to have to be a constant flux of new information as things progress. But having compiled resources and where to look and where to start those paths is huge.
Yeah. So, and that's spun from the nonprofit as well. So part of the proceeds is going back to the nonprofit.
That's wonderful. So on another side, there's another role that both of you, I believe, have filled in the past that I wanted to touch on. You have been judges for Mardi Gras, and I think many other things as well. But since we're on the Mardi Gras podcast, I wanted to bring up the fact that you have both filled the role of judge at the Mardi Gras Fine Arts Festival that happens annually, and just share a little bit of light on what that process has been like for you, and why that's a role that you're willing to take on and happy to be a part of.
Well, I was honored because they asked me to not just judge it, but also be a juror. So a few years ago, they reached out to me and asked me to juror first. And then I was like, oh, okay, cool. And, it's a process. You sit in front of a screen, look at all these slides and stuff. I was able to pick out people that I knew, like you. So I could not judge that work.
Right.
But then what happened after that, they were like, oh, can you judge too? And it's an all-day thing. All day. But I got to meet a lot of artists. And the cool thing about that is that I go back to some of these booths after and make purchases, But it's a great experience. I like the fact that they partner with another person so I can kind of sneak in and not have a long conversation unless I have questions. Because since it's long, I can't stand there and talk to every
you can't
artist.
Spend 30 minutes with every person. You have to kind of move through this.
So, and I'm one of those, if there's something that I really just want to tackle, I go in there and I do it. With the jurying process, it's 2 days it's 2 days to doing it. It's a lot of work, but I enjoy it. I like to see what new art's coming to the festival. I love the fact that I'm part of the community, giving it input to what's going to be available to the public for, acquiring or even just appreciating. And the festival is really cool, period. So being a part of something like that, that was easy. What started happening, artists started recognizing me.
You are a known person in this area. So,
and even the ones that come from out of state started recognizing me. So what I started doing, I made a recommendation for a few people, one being Anthony, and then a couple of other people. And I still jured, but I allowed them to do the work. And the cool thing about Anthony is that he really is about the mentorship part. So he's one of those who will have a conversation with the artist and say, hey, tell me a little bit about that. And then with the emerging art section, he really gets into that. And a lot of them appreciate that.
Definitely.
That's the fun part for me. I think it's literally the end when I'm able to go to the 6 artists. I think it's like 6, right?
It depends.
The number changes, but the emerging artists.
For them to ask me, or I make them ask me a question like, I'm here, what you need? Talk to me.
Yeah.
And I sure a few of them have came back to me later who've gotten into the main show and thank me for my advice and my critique of the artwork. Because again, I'm always telling artists, if you want me to critique your art, you got to give me permission. I'm like a vampire.
Let me in.
You let me in. I'm gonna be real with you, but I'm not gonna sit there and say anything about your art if you don't want it to be said. And the same thing with the emerging artists. I don't force my voice on them. I just say I'm here, and all of them have pretty much opened up and told me their stories or told me about what they feel worked and didn't work and why. And since I technically have never really did Mardi Gras, other than they did the backyard.
Yeah, we were part of the artists of Palm Beach County, and they put us in the backyard artists, which was probably the worst thing they could have called it because
we got treated that
right
way.
Next to like the yard gardening stuff.
The garden, yeah.
So like people didn't get the whole backyard.
The messaging was not clear to the general public.
They already shopped the artists and they got we got bags already. Ain't nothing we can do for you. Like your work though.
Yeah.
See you again sometime.
So that was the only time. And they changed that up.
I'm sure. Yeah.
They changed it to the emerging artist section because we weren't emerging.
Okay.
But they did not have an emerging art section at that time. So they were like, well, let's do this instead, which is, I think, a smart move.
Yes. And again, I think it benefits the artists because some of them just don't believe they can even do it. This big art show, how can we, I don't have the stuff or the ability to do this here. And so the program to me is working because I get to see her judging the artists getting into the show and stuff. So, Dora.
I'm
sorry.
That's all right. We had a momentary guess for a second.
But I literally enjoy doing Art Gras. I never thought that I could be involved the way I am. And again, it's afterwards we did the parade for the first time when they gave out the awards.
Yeah,
that was fun.
This is on my second year. The first year it rained, so we didn't do the parade.
Right.
This came down. So this go around, they did the parade, and it was like just to see the artists' faces saying, that they won and stuff. And it's like, wow, this is really special. So that allowed me, like, going to the mentors. I went to all the artists that won, like, congratulations. I say, your work is beautiful. We judge you, we think that you are who you are.
Yeah.
And hope to see you again next year. So it's a fun moment for us.
It is. It's a big fun energy moment when those awards and the literal fanfare, they have a guy playing the trumpet out there. And whether you're somebody who is, and I don't think most of them are, but whether you're an artist who is looking for that, recognition or not, it is an exciting thing to receive that. I mean, I was so excited. A dear friend of mine, oil painter, this year was the recipient of one of those awards. And it was actually her first time doing an art festival. She's been a professional artist for many years, but she's worked through galleries and she sold privately and independently, but it was her first time doing a festival.
Landscape.
So it was just, she does a little bit of landscape, but she does very coastal thematic work.
I don't know who you're talking about.
The oil painter, See, very, some seascape, some people.
Yes.
There's very, very oceany
I remember
vibes to
her.
her work.
Yeah,
But she's
I
such a
remember
lovely, lovely person, and it was very exciting. My booth was like across from hers almost, so to see that win happening was just, it's exciting. I mean, I'm always excited for everybody, and as an artist who participates in that show, I don't usually have the opportunity to walk the whole show when it's open because it's busy, which is a good problem to have. But if there's ever anybody that I see that's near me who's one, I always love to run over there and just be like, yes, congratulations. Like ramp up that excitement a little bit because it's fun to have that energy, especially for a long weekend when you're out there in the sun, the heat and the what ifs. It's nice to have those moments of like, we get a little cheer on.
It was so cool.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because this is the first year I didn't walk it the other 2 times that I judged. But doing it this time, I was like, this is really cool until I got hungry. But it was, I was like, I'm getting hungry
and
now.
after parade. I'm like, I'm not
I
leaving
got
the parade.
I got to see tears and emotion and stuff. It was cool.
Yeah.
I really liked it.
When all those elements come together, it is a really special event and festival. And I think we're really lucky, and I am, given that the fact that I live in Palm Beach Gardens and I grew up here. I lived in West Palm for about a decade, but that this kind of event gets to happen in our area, and it is a big deal because it's the biggest one in Palm Beach Gardens.
I'm glad that it moved to back to Palm Beach Gardens.
Yeah,
too.
the venue is great. The space that they have for it now in the park. And if I tried to say the name of the park, I'd probably get it wrong because it's a big name, but something like Gardens North County District Park, I think. But it is a great area.
Yes.
We're lucky that it's here. So with everything we've talked about already, and, I've still got more questions ahead of you. So keep your energy up.
Absolutely.
You're doing a great job though.
Thank
But
you.
I did want to, we talked about this again off camera. You guys do a lot creatively for the community, for administration of these different, of the nonprofit and of different, committees that you may or may not be on. Let's talk about burnout and mental health and how you guys face and deal with that as an artist, because I know it's a truth that we all do and it's powerful and important to talk about it. So who wants to start on that fun question?
I would start. One thing I can say that it does not affect me is me creating, because my art is my therapy. So it's taken me off a lot of cliffs. And I tell people all the time, you don't know what's in that piece I created. 'Cause, man, it can tell some stories if it is able to talk. But recently it's really been hard. I know it's not just myself. A lot of artists was going through it. I had a lot of great things that happened to me throughout my art career. But this has been the hardest, the last, I say, year and a half, that I would say nothing's gone my way.
Mm.
And it has affected me financially, mentally, our relationship, because again, it's always trying to find a new way. It's always trying to find, okay, this is not working, so let's try this next. And to sometimes get praised by other artists or how great my success is and everything. They think everything is just golden, and Anthony, you one of the best. You not having problems like I am having. I'm like, I am you. I just sometimes handle it better. I was just at Brass Tacks, and one of the questions came up of burnout. And they looked at me, and I'm like, I don't mentally, I burn out, but you would never know. I hide it very well. Not that I'm going to go out and do anything harmful to myself, because like I said, I do have my artwork to pour it into. And I try to tell the artists the same way. Look, if you're going through something, create a piece of artwork. If you're angry, scribble. Something's going to come out of that piece. It's times I've gone to my studio and just sit there for hours and not do nothing. My mind's still going. Things are still running in my head. What can I do next? What's the new piece I'm going to work on? What will bring revenue into my house? But at the end of the day, nobody really knows that, and it needs to be spoken upon. And I do hold it in a lot until I get home. She hears it. Sometimes, she tries to help, and I'm like, no, I don't need your help. I just need someone else to talk. I just want you to listen to me. Because sometimes that's all you need. You just need someone else to hear what you're going through, not to try to give them a solution to the problem. I am a diabetic as well. And I did have a moment with my doctor that I did what I normally do with her. And the first thing the doctor said to me, well, get a job. And I'm looking at this doctor, I'm like, get a job? That's what you think I'm talking to you about? My art is my job. My art is my life. I was put here to do what I'm doing. I don't need you to think that I'm just sitting on the couch waiting for a paycheck to come through me. So she didn't help me. And sometimes I have these moments that I will leave the house and sit in my car and just hold on to the steering wheel, not moving, not going anywhere. And I have this thing, this connection with God that I sit there and I start smiling. Then I do a little laugh and I say, okay, I'm all right now. Let me step back out the car. It hasn't been working lately. I can't get in the car and laugh and tell God it's going to be all right, because right now I don't know what the climate is going to be next month or next year. And it has affected me over the years, the last year and a half, I should say. And because I'm one of those type of people, I don't get down for long. I find a way to pick myself up or find a way to whatever, or I always say God's going to bless me with something. So I never had a mentor in my life, which all artists get your mentor. I never had that person that I can talk to. And in the Black community, the men, they're very prideful. They're not going to let you see them crack. And sometimes they don't know that we need to see them crack so we can understand how to fix it. And our kids are my psychiatrist's son, the youngest, Mr. Raymond Burks. He's always trying to crack me. Like, Dad, you need to go and get that therapy, Dad. You really need it. And I'm like, son, as long as you good and your brother's good and your mom's good, I'm going to be all right. Because I do have my outlet. I have my art. So it's not going to hold me too long, but it's been tested this year. And maybe I do need to go get some counseling at some point. I don't know how that will work because, again, being a Black male, we don't go talk to no one. We use family. And saying what I'm saying is that I think a lot of artists out there is going through what I'm going through. And it doesn't matter how big you are, how small you are. You maybe need to get that personal help to make sure that you make it to the next day. I always joke to myself that, I would never do anything to harm myself or anyone else. I'm going through what I'm going through because, again, I do have the outlet. I did it pretty much yesterday. I went to my studio. I'm not creating today. I'm just not, but I know I needed this to be here. Before I know it, I almost finished the piece. And literally it cleared my mind. It made me think a little differently. But again, it's that point when you do get back in the car, go to the house, and knowing that, all right, the mortgage is due or whatever, and there's no job for me to get.
Right.
This is the way I live. This is my life. I don't even want to keep, a lot of people think that, that starving artist thing is real. Mm-hmm. And I always use the terminology to look, a hustle is a hustle, no matter who you are and what you do. You can't survive doing what you love. I'm just lucky enough to wake up doing what I love, and going to bed doing what I love, because it never turns off. I always use the terminology that it's like a drum that never stops beating, no matter if I'm asleep or awake, or like she's saying with the Norton, I'm in my zone. Mm-hmm. It's controlling me, and my art does control me. And I am blessed to be able to say that God always got my back. Anytime we are in that little crisis, all right, Trina, got 5 days before the rent's due or the mortgage is due. How are we going to make this happen? And a piece of sell. Yeah. And I have a few collectors out there that basically has my back. I know I probably could call them up and say, hey, I called my Haitian lawyer. He's have $1,000 in his pocket. He always want the $5,000 piece, but he had $1,000 in his pocket. I know I can always go bang on that door if it's needed and get that $1,000 from him, and again, but I love what I do, but I'm speaking on this here is that if you can find someone to help you, don't ignore it. If you feel something that's not right, don't ignore it. But talk to the right person. Like, don't go to my doctor. Not that I want to get rid of her and nothing like that, but I was thinking about it really hard that day.
But being in a community that
yes.
has an understanding that we're not clocking into a job.
Right.
These aren't regular hours.
No.
There's nobody directing this path for us and saying, here's your task list for today, which will earn you this dollar amount. Doesn't exist for us in this life that we've chosen. So it is important to, like you say, talk to the right people, and
don't ignore the signs.
Yeah.
Because if they're there for a reason. And again, I won't say I have been ignoring the signs, because I've always been a strong person that, baby, all right, I'm going to get over this. This is not going to defeat me. It's not going to. But again, in the climate that we all in right now, it's waking up in those days and, man, and the only thing was, again, saves me that I know I'm getting up at 7, going to get dressed, I'm going to the studio by 11. And I'm either going to sit there for 3 or 4 hours, or I'm going to be there and creating art for 3 or 4 hours. And that's my relief until I get home. So again, that's my call to all artists out there. And I'm talking to the artists right now, because again, we are in a tough space right now. Things are not as easy as it normally are. And again, money is not flowing through our collectors like they normally do. And a lot of my collectors I won't say they could shut the door, but they've shut the door. And I understand why they shut the door. So, things are crazy right now, but I just tell the artists to hold on. I had a cousin of mine, Demetrius McCrae, who passed away recently. He met me back in the day when I was at my low about the whole house thing. He met me at the grocery store. He was looking at my face. He's like, what is wrong with you? I said, man, things are just not going right. And he just started shooting me these saying, is your lights on? Yeah, my lights are on. How about your water? Yeah, the water's on. You still in your house, right? I said, yeah, but it's in foreclosure right now. He said, but no, you didn't hear me. Are you still in your house right now? I'm like, yeah. Where are you getting at with this here? And he just said, God's never going to put too much on your plate that you can't handle, because you're a good person. You do everything for everyone else. So he's going to hold you. You just got to stay fast and understand that it's coming. You just got to be patient sometimes and let it work his own stuff out. And I can say every time I'm in that funk of, I don't know how I'm explaining to Trina that I didn't sell a piece of artwork this week, and the mortgage might not get paid. And I know I should have saved my money for this rainy day, but we just never know when that rainy day is going to come.
Or how long it's going to rain for.
Right.
And I'm going to invest. I invest in my art. I don't just sit there and let things just fall to whatever. I'm always trying to find a new way to create. I'm always trying to find a new way for someone to afford my art and still be true to the art itself. Because no matter how I'm going through, my art has to get created the way I want it to be created. Yeah. It's not going to be creative because someone say, Anthony, you can make a lot of money if you do this.
Yeah.
No.
If you paint somebody's golden doodle, I'm sure you could sell 1 million of those.
Yeah.
But
Or the flamingo. If I do another flamingo, I can make some money tomorrow. But it doesn't work that way. It doesn't come out of me that way. I have tried a couple of times. She have called me a couple of times. Anthony, what are you doing?
Like, it's not going
What are you talking about? Anthony, come on, look what you created. You didn't. This is not you. You don't create this stuff. And I'm like, you're right. Let me get my head back on my shoulders because again, my family are sometimes they don't know, but they are my rock. My kids, bless them. They're going through their little mental. These young kids, they're going more than they should. Even my kids are 32 and 30. They're still my kids, but they are.
I'm 34, so I'm in that time period of I get it.
So sometimes they come at me and they don't want me to give them the answer. They just want me to listen. That's where I had to learn. They want me to just listen. Dad, I don't need you to be daddy right now. I just need you to listen. Yeah.
Somebody be a sounding board that is, potentially coming from a loving, respectful, not going to interrupt you or put you down and put that input on you, but just hear you out, let you get that out of your body. And there's that saying that a burden shared is a burden halved. And a joy shared is a joy doubled. Right. And that's so true.
Absolutely true.
And, there's been times where I've been going through something, and recently I had somebody, good friend of mine, talking on the phone to her, and she started to say something. She said, I'm not going to share that right now because I know you're going through something. And I said, no, hold on. I want to know every single win and every single joy, and whether or not I'm in a place, doesn't matter. I'm going to celebrate with you.
That's right.
Yes.
And it's going to give me a piece of joy to share in your, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like that openness is so important for the lows and the highs, for artists and for everybody.
That's right.
To share with each other because of that sentiment. A burden shared is a burden halved. Joy shared, joy doubled.
That's right.
Like I will always be in a mentality to celebrate somebody else's win.
Yes.
And to hear them out if they're going through something. And, I can only hope the same of the people on the receiving end of what I'm dealing with one way or the other.
Absolutely.
And for artists to have that for each other. That's why when I see things like brass tacks that exist.
I would say that's a outlet right now that I'm using, that sitting with those artists and hearing them tell us what they need help with.
Yeah.
And sometimes I can't be the one to take over the meeting because, Trina and I will come there and I'm like, I'm only going off my experiences.
Yeah.
And letting I've been through it already and I'm here. So you can do the same thing, but you still got to put the work in. And so I use brass tacks as well as that. But sometimes I get kind of like in my own little way of that, should I give them what I'm going through? Like we were just there Wednesday night and I wanted to talk about this mental health thing. I'm like, no, Anthony, no. Not today, maybe another day. Guess it was meant for today. But again, I truly think that as artists, we are put on the pressure gun and that we have a lot of pressure on our head and we got a lot of people in our ear just giving us a negative thought of you can't do this without getting a job or you can't do this and survive off of it. And just stop it, people. Stop telling us that. We don't need to hear that. You don't do that to the doctors and the lawyers and
they not to sound self-important on behalf of myself or anybody else, but they'd miss us. They'd miss the arts. And a lot of people don't realize the importance that arts, culture, all of these things bring to their life, bring to their area, financially and otherwise.
That's right.
That if artists just were like, oh, you're right, I'm going to go get a job. As an accountant, as a, whatever they're deeming barista. As a necessary field, they would miss the arts.
I had a moment
pretty quickly.
Once that I didn't know. This changed me again a few years ago. This gentleman was always on social media praising my art. Oh my God. And all these different things. He always at the end, I'm going to buy this piece. Months passed, he never pulled the trigger on buying a piece of artwork. So one day he reached out to me and said, can I call you? I'm like, Trina, should I get this guy my number? He's been bugging me for months about buying art, but he have not pulled the trigger. So I don't know who he is or why he's really in my life right now. So I gave him my number. He called me. He said, I just want to tell you right now, I have cancer and I had to downsize. He said, only thing that's keeping me alive right now is your art. He said, every time because I create a lot of art. He said, it's like, it seems like you never stop. You always got a new piece coming out. He said, you just don't know how you have touched me. And I'm calling you today because I want to buy a piece of art finally. I'm like, I don't want you to buy art. I want to just pick a piece. I just give it to you, because I feel selfish that I thought the negative form about you and what you were doing in the months of, my art. And he passed away. He never got my art. And if anything I've ever been broke down for a minute was that moment that, man, I had an opportunity to give someone something to keep them alive. And I was thinking about my pocket at the time. So I let this beautiful guy suffer, knowing that I could have gave him a piece of artwork, and it probably, not saying it would have prolonged his life. He had cancer, so it's not like he died of loneliness. He died from the cancer that was going to prolong, but it would at least giving him hope that he can make it to another, because he wants to see another Anthony Burks get created. So I created these pink trees in his honor. I do it in October. I do about 30 trees. And I tell people through my social media platforms that you can come get a tree. No, you don't have to buy it. No, you don't have to give me any money for it. You just walk in. I'm not going to question you if you're sick or not sick or whatever. If you need this tree to make you feel good today, come by and pick up that tree. And I started getting stories. I had one lady that's out of town. She got a tree and she texted me. I texted me on social media, inbox me, and she said, "Oh my God, thank you for my tree and love it, She passed away. So I just kept getting these people that basically was honoring my work, and they're leaving this earth. And I'm like, wow, I hope that my work gave them a little bit of something to just make them feel good while they go through what they're going through. So I've been doing that for years. I don't know how many years. I never put it on the calendar, but every year, October, I do these trees, and anybody can walk into my space and get a tree from me. No cost. I do ask for shipping though. I did have a doctor. I think she lived in Kansas, and she wrote to me, "I need a bunch of your trees. I work in the field of having the patients have cancer, and can you please give me some trees?" So I think I did like 15 trees and sent them to her. But like you said, she became a client of mine too. She had bought 3 or 4 pieces from me since then. But again, not that I did it for her to be a client. It's the point is I wanted to, again, give someone hope to make it the next day. And that's the type of person I am. I tell people all the time, how you live yourself if you don't give back. How you live yourself, the only thing you focus on is making $1. Especially as an artist. How do you make it every day? To me, you sold your soul. God gave you this beautiful gift, and you're using it just for finances. How do you wake up every morning and stuff? So mental health is, again, something that I want. My family think I ignore it because, I'm always that, it's going to be all right.
Right.
And something they think I don't understand what people are going through, and they don't know in my head. I'm really thinking about that person. They don't go anywhere. I just express it that I want you to just have some hope that you can make it through whatever you're going through, whatever crisis you're going through. But then sometimes I have those moments that I don't have that person to go to. I don't have the person knocking on because they're looking at me in a different light. And that's what comes to the art. That a lot of people look at my art and say, "Man, then you made it." Yeah. And I'm like, yeah.
What's it?
Right.
What is it?
What's it?
I had my cousin who's an artist. He posted something the other day about, I want to know who's the millionaire artist in Florida. He said Florida, Palm Beach County. Palm Beach County. And I'm like, wow.
We're not thinking about that.
My comment was to him was that, there's a lot of millionaire artists that's dead. And if they're not dead, they sold to some commercial or whatever to make this $1 million. And that we are not here for the finance only. We're here to bring joy to people's hearts. And if you're only thinking about making that $1 million, you're not doing your job right. And you're not respecting your gift that you have. your gift.
And then what happens, you have to ask yourself those questions of what is going to happen if the money runs dry, runs out, pauses.
Yeah, right.
What are you falling back on then?
Yeah.
Because clearly you have a purpose, a passion, a gift that sustains you because it has other applications than making you $1. It has real, deep, meaningful, soulful value to you, to your family, to your community. That's important for you to keep creating, whether the money is flowing or whether it's not flowing.
Right. Well, because I always had opportunities to make money. I have turned down a lot of gigs because I'm like, that doesn't relate to me.
Align with you.
Yeah. And I can't put my name on it. And I try to tell artists all the time, why create something that you can't put your name on?
Yeah.
Why are you creating it?
There's a lot of opportunities that come up that I try my best as a professional and an artist to say, thank you so much for thinking of me.
Yes.
Whether it was just because I was the only artist that they knew,
Right.
or because they really thought I was the right person, or whatever the case may be, you get thought of. Thank you for thinking of me. I don't think this is the event, the whatever that aligns with what I'm doing. I'm always going to try and think of, hey, I know a person for you. And if I can turn you in a direction that seems more appropriate for what you're looking for your event, for what your needs are, I'm going to try and do that. But there are those things where, yes, you have to turn them down because they're just not.
It's not. Or the people that's collecting your work. We had a moment, this guy came in, he bought a lot of art from one of our events. And I was teaching my art class at the time at the Armory Art Center. And Trina called me, this guy is just buying all this artwork. When you getting off?
It was a lot.
And so I get there and I do these small gifts. I call them cigar boxes. I had about 11 of them there. He bought all of them. Every last one of them he bought. I'm like, this is so strange. Who is this guy that's spending all this money? And he came over to me. He wanted me, Trina introduced me to him and everything. He wanted to know a little bit about me. And I had about 4 pieces on the wall that he was dying to own. And I asked him the question. I said, if you don't mind me asking, what are you going to do with my art? And he's like, I love art. I said, no, you didn't answer my question. What are you going to do with my art since you want it so badly? He couldn't really give me no answer. And that was a nice little figure of money I could have got from him. And I said, you know what? Let's have coffee one day and talk about it again. He said, so you're not selling to me? I said, no, I'm not today. I'm not selling it to you. I said, but I want us to meet one day, have some coffee, then you get to know who I am so I can get to know who you are. And that you got to understand that these pieces of art is my soul. And I want to make sure they're in the right home. And not saying your home is wrong, but you're new here and I never heard of you and you're buying and buying and buying and you're making a lot of artists very happy today. But at the end of the day, you can answer my question. What are you going to do with my art? And literally, a month later? It was a month? Less than that.
Yeah, it was after the show.
After the show, he calls Trina and he's trying to sell the artwork back to her.
I mean, he spent a lot of money. And the artists were excited. Like when that dream you have when somebody comes into your space and they're like, oh my God,
they're like, that one. Yeah.
We joke of how excited we would get if that happened. But when it actually does, and like you said, we didn't know this person. We've never seen him before. And he just kind of came out of nowhere. And it was a little bizarre. So a lot of times you think about, is this really worth it? So literally the person that was selling, I was like, stop it. Stop selling. There's something that, he ended up paying for it. But fast forward, it might have been like a month later, I got an email. He's like, he was thinking about reselling it back to me. I said, all sales are final. I'm sorry. And that's something that I want to teach artists too. A lot of times we lead on desperation instead of gratitude. And when you lead in desperation, that kind of energy follows you. And you want to kind of keep that away. So as much as I was happy for all the artists that got to sell, I knew it was going to be a challenge. I knew that I just kind of felt it.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Not all money is good money, like they say.
Yeah, and you have an intuition about it.
Yeah, and you think about like you say, you want these pieces to go into other great homes, and a great home doesn't necessarily mean big money.
No.
It just means somebody that will appreciate it.
Yes.
They'll take care of it like it's their own, and I just sensed that wasn't the case in this.
Yeah.
But I stood my ground, sometimes you got to kind of turn that creative side off and be very professional. I said, I'm sorry, we don't do refunds.
Yeah.
You might want to go to another art dealer or something and see what happens. But our sales, our transaction is done.
Yeah.
Honestly, I felt for the artists.
Sure.
Because again, they don't know where their work is right now. And one of the artists this is so crazy that one of the artists entered the show and he had a real high price tag on his piece. And we were just talking to him, hey, the price is really up there. What's your purpose? You got any clients that are buying that site? No, it's just a big piece. I said,
he reduced the price.
He reduced it a little bit, but that's one of the bigger piece sold. And I'm like, so I still went back to him and said, look, I'm going to explain this to you. This is not a norm.
Yeah.
So take this win, take the blessing that God's giving you right now, but don't take it and make an ego out of it that you just sold a piece for $6,000 and this is the first time you ever made that much money. And, this is my chance. I'm going to do this again tomorrow. And I'm like, don't do that to yourself because it's going to beat you up. I said, so not saying not to respect that this guy came in and bought your work and he really means well for you. But this is not a normal. So just prepare yourself that you might go another year without selling anything close to that, or you might.
Yeah.
But just be ready for whatever the decisions at the end that you make on your mind.
The fluctuation that just because you get one big thing doesn't necessarily mean that's the standard and level that you're at now.
Yeah.
And that goes back into teaching artists about business and understanding the business side of it and knowing that's part of why we do things like Continuum and collaboration so they can learn that it's not only this way. There are other avenues. And the other part of it is teaching them about how to represent themselves and how to have their own voice.
Yes.
Not just the voice in creating the work, but the voice in what you expect in your expectations. So,
Well, thank you for being willing to go there and bring that up and be open about it, because I do think it's massively important for all people. But, we're talking about our artist community here. And I also, I know that there are listeners of this show that are not artists and they're on a different perspective. And I think it's important for those people to also hear about potential ways that they can learn about supporting artists and what that means and how many ways there are to do that without necessarily just having to buy a piece of artwork.
Right.
Literally telling somebody that their artwork got them through a hard time or gave their spirit something to hold on to is massive as well.
That's more than $1 million.
Yes, that's so huge that, there are innumerable ways to support your local arts community without having to spend $1 sometimes.
That's right.
Those dollars are important too, but there are other ways that impact.
Yes. I always tell people who come in my room and say, oh, Anthony, I wish I can afford. I say, maybe you can't afford. Maybe you got a friend that can't afford. So support me. And I said, I'm one of those type of people. You give me a client, I'm going to give you a piece of art or something. I said, I love that. All my collectors get an extra piece of mine. I always give them something. You always mail something else to them other than just giving them, buying the artwork. That's just show, man, I appreciate you. You got me out of a situation, or you
just appreciate
the artwork, and here I am going to give you something else other than the piece that you just purchased. And please share. I don't want my work to be in your home and nobody gets to see it but you. Please let other people know that I exist, because this is how I make my living. I always use the terminology that if I don't sell a piece of artwork today, I don't eat, which is real. But I'm not going to put a gun to anyone's head to make them buy my art. I don't ever force anyone on my pieces. And it breaks my heart when I got a person coming to me that can't afford my work, but they're giving their last dime. Like, oh, I don't want you to do that. And I want you to still respect me too, is that, this is my business, and just entrust. And like, if you come to my studio, what's your budget? very, very important word. What is your budget?
Yeah.
Let me pull something out that fits your budget. You're going to love whatever I give you, but I want you to be comfortable that you're not looking at a piece that you don't have the money to pull that trigger.
Yeah.
And then I don't want to feel guilty that you did pull that trigger and knowing you didn't have the money to pull that trigger. So it's very important that artists don't beat themselves up when they're not making sales. Just stay humble to who you are. It's going to happen. If you're a good person, I always feel you're a good person, good things are going to happen your way regardless of what you're going through in life.
But it's important to have that communication with your collectors or would-be collectors to say, okay, maybe the $6,000 painting that, would look, yes, beautiful in your living room is not for you right now if that's not where you're at financially. But if you're a fan of the work and we have something that we share because I love to do this and you would love to have something of mine in your home and be a collector and be a supporter, then we can find something, whether that's, I love it when I see artists personally selling sketches, selling smaller works, smaller originals. I've definitely done that myself where I've pivoted to make affordable original because if somebody really has a love of the work, I want to see them have it. I want to see them with it. I don't want to withhold something because we can't make this financial exchange that works for both of us. So I want to make a version of this that's available. Yes. And that's an important conversation to have with collectors and say, come in, let's talk. We'll work with what you got, whether that you have the prints, you have smaller originals, you have watercolors versus the big framed pieces that are, there's those options.
Yeah. I have I have artists who own my work as well.
Yeah.
But I have a big client of mine. She lives in Chicago and, she wanted something for her friends for Christmas. So I do these wine boxes and cigar boxes. And she literally cleaned me out. She bought all these boxes from me. I had to get them shipped to her. It was crazy. And so I reached out to her and said, hey, I want to know that your people love the boxes that you bought for Christmas. She said, I got a confession, Anthony. They never got them.
She kept them all.
Oh my God.
She kept them all.
And that's a running joke with us now. It's like, so you just hogging Anthony Burks because you said, no, they're not getting these pieces. And literally I can't remember how many bottles. She bought a lot. She had a lot of friends. And none of them
got anything.
Boxes. So they all, I don't know where they are in her house.
Yeah.
She took pictures of my work in her house and other places, but she has not shown me pictures of where these boxes are located in her home. But again, my
art. She gave them gift cards as gifts.
Right. What did they give for Christmas that year?
It's not getting Anthony Burks, which I wanted to get Anthony Burks because you're going to spread the love.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Don't hold on to me like that, Yeah. So again, it's just my heart is pure. And with my art, it's just an extraness in me that keeps me going. And I want other people to just appreciate it and love it the way I do.
Yeah. It's important, like sense of fulfillment that you get as an artist.
Yes.
When people ask me, I still get blown away that my work gets to live in somebody's home, in their home, where they look at every day, because I know what the artwork that I've collected means to me and what it does for me on a daily basis. And the fact that we get to have that with our collectors and that it means something to them, that they're not just willing to, but enjoying making this space, making this, vital space in their life include us, is so magical. It's so special. It's such a special connection that every time I stop and think of it, I'm so lucky.
Yes.
I'm so lucky that I get to have that connection with some people. And it has nothing to do, and you know this, with like you said, the size, the value, the grandness or not of the home. I could care less. If those people have found something that they love and cherish, and it gets to hang on their wall and it means something to them, oof. That's
the $1 million right there.
It is.
It's the $1 million.
So talking about appreciating the arts, there's a question that I ask everybody on this podcast, which has to do with, being in Palm Beach County. We'll keep it to this area. If you were suggesting, and I know you have a lot of resources that you'd probably think about, but when you're suggesting to people who live here or who visit Palm Beach County, where is one, could be an event, could be a place, museum, a piece of public art that they need to experience. You need to come check this out, and it'll tell you something about what this community, what this art community is about here. What would that?
For me, I have technically 3.
That's fine. I'll allow
the Northwood Museum After Dark.
Yeah.
Not only you get to listen to some beautiful music, you get to see the show and see other people enjoying themselves. And that's something new they just started, I'm assuming, because they ain't been that long. So I've been there all my life. And again, thank God for the new director here. He's really has opened up the Northern's doors. The Culture Council, because the work that they're showing there is all local. So if you want to see the artist that lives here, the Culture Council is doing their job.
Yeah.
And one other one was the Commanders by Night. And that's come for years because our kids used to go and dance and do all these different things when the old library was there and stuff. So I have those memories more than the newest ones, but Trina and I still go there and support the things. But those are my 3. I forgot one thing in the last talk. I forgot to mention this. The Culture Council is a big part of my life.
Yeah.
I was one of the fellows. I got the fellowship, the first one that they put out for the local artists. And from there, I was able to open up my studio, which is with Zero Empty Spaces.
Yes.
I've been there for almost 5 years. And that was because the Culture Council gave me the funds to be able to afford to open my studio. And on top of that, create some, coffee table book that I created and do the showcase that we had available. So shout out to Culture Council.
Absolutely.
Again, they are the new team there are great, and they do listen to us now. So if you're an artist, knock on their door, they will answer it.
Yes. And the fact that they welcome the feedback and they welcome the input of saying, like, they literally have questionnaires about it, right? If you're on your if you're on their email list, they'll send something out that says, what are we missing? What support do you need? What are you looking for as an artist? And what are the opportunities that you'd like to see more of? And that's, it's fantastic that those questions get asked now. Yeah. And we give big props. We like them.
Yes.
Love them.
What's the space for you, Trina?
So the Rinker, I'm a theater kid. So I am like partial. I love going to Broadway shows, but there's something about the smaller plays that they have. I love that. And the other one, I sat on the board for this organization. So let me say it right. Spady Cultural Heritage Museum in Delray. They do this tour. And actually, the way I connected with them, they reached out to me on LinkedIn, of all things, to sit on their board. So I sat on their board for 2 years, but the way they lured me was through their tour. And they do this amazing tour around the city of Delray, and they have like a lot of historical information. So those are the 2 things. Like, you named some great ones, but those are the 2 I would recommend.
I love it. Yeah, those are all great ones. And I always love to hear people's, advice, because sometimes they're ones that I haven't experienced yet or haven't been to yet. So it's always great for me to hear it. I know our listeners appreciate getting to know, people who want to get more connected to this area. And there's so much here that we have to offer that not everybody knows about yet. And I don't like hearing the word hidden gem, the phrase hidden gem anymore. I don't want the hidden gem. It's a gem.
Yes.
It's a gem.
We need to put it out there. People need to know about it. It's not a secret we're trying to keep. Like, we have many, many wonderful places, events, resources that people should get connected to.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But I'm glad you mentioned the Cultural Council, because that's going to lead me into a short little ad break we're going to hear from our sponsor, the Cultural Council for Palm Beach County. Please listen to a short word from them, and we'll be right back.
Those dinner reservations and tea times will have to wait, because there's an art-filled paradise beyond these beaches. A mecca of masterpieces, spectacular sights by day and night. A cultural capital that's calling your name. See so much more than you came for in the Palm Beaches.
So today we're here with TGH Physicians Network nurse, Lynn Stockford. Lynn, I didn't realize how many TGH doctors there are here in Palm Beach County. How many are we up to now?
We're up to 70 practitioners. That includes physicians, nurse practitioners, and PAs, and they represent 13 different specialties.
So in your role, you help patients find the right care, correct?
Correct.
So you're the connector.
Correct.
So what happens if a patient needs to go to Tampa for complex care?
We gather all their information, their medical records. We get them set up in our electronic medical record. We speak to the family, the referring physician, the accepting physician, and we make sure the ambassadors in Tampa are available to receive them and make sure they get the right care. Awesome,
Lynn. Well, thank you so much for being here. And that was your Medical Minute brought to you by Tampa General Hospital.
All right. I have a couple more questions that I do want to get into before I let you guys go, but I'm sure we could talk all day. I could. It's been great having you on here.
You might have to cut this in
the 3 episodes. Listen, I debated so long before I actually extended that invitation, which I've been thinking about since we started this podcast of like, I know I could do 2 full episodes with both of you, but the combination just seemed like a fun one to me. So I'm glad to have you both on together. I wanted to talk about the ethnic mermaids that you do. I'm not sure how that started. So I wanted to hear kind of how that series started. And I know it's progressed into a coloring book. And I've actually attended an event that was sponsored by the Norton. It was hosted in the Square City Place. And I got to color one of those pages, which I really thoroughly enjoyed. You know, it's one of those things where I just got into it. And I was like, I haven't touched colored pencils in a while. I get to, get my little Anthony Burks moment on here for a second with the colored pencils and just zone right into it. And it was just such a great process. And a lot of joy in that room.
I can't take the credit for the mermaids. I have to give it to her.
Well, it was a combo.
Yeah.
So the way it actually started, he used to be at Clay Glass Metal Stone, the gallery down in Lake Worth. And he was, I guess, in a funk.
I was in a funk.
He could not come up with anything to draw. So he was doodling these mermaids. And I think it was embedded in his head because there was a mother that came up to him one day. I don't even know why the conversation came up, but she said that her daughter didn't have mermaids that looked like her. And so, sometimes when someone says something to an artist, it'll stay in there for a while. You don't even realize it's there. So here he is in this gallery doodling. So he came home one day after like one of his days at the gallery. He's like, I have not created anything. And I looked at him. I was like, you created over 40 mermaids.
Yeah.
Like a bunch of different ones. Really cool. And he's like, oh, I guess, because he does pen and ink too. But I think in his mind, I'm a color pencil artist. And that's my discipline. That's my materials that I work in. Like, no, you created all these things. So we were thinking about like, how can we have these besides just the artwork? So we were like, oh, let's do some T-shirts, do some wearable art. And then the idea of doing a coloring book came up. So at the time, we didn't really know what it was going to look like. It might have been like the size of this book. And we went to a printer and he was like, these are really cool and they're very long. You should like produce the coloring books long. It won't cost you. It probably will save you, if anything, because of the size of the paper.
Okay.
So we go to that printer, getting ready, he brought all the stuff, getting ready to paste. Like, we can't, the girl that worked there, she's like, can't do this. We don't have the setup for it. So we were like, oh my God, here we are.
We had a show lined up. We were going to do this.
Oh gosh. Yeah, dependent on these pieces coming out.
So
pre-orders of the book.
Yeah. And we're like, what do you mean? Because we didn't even really promote it to look like anything yet.
Okay.
Until he gave us the idea to do them long. So we had just launched what they were doing and everybody was excited. He's like, hold on a second. So he called another printer. Local, we're trying to keep it local. It's hard to keep printing local.
It is, yeah.
And he called this other printer and they were like, yeah, we can do it. Absolutely. And it ended up being less being produced by that printer.
Yeah.
So
I went there sweating though. I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
I didn't care what he was going to charge. I'm like, look, I just need this done. This guy taught me into this beautiful concept.
This layout, and now it's like,
And I'm a graphic designer, so I did all the work. I did all the design for this. I spent hours on creating this thing, and for this guy to come to me, or it's more like his assistant come like, we can't make these.
And I was watching her like run around I'm like, what is wrong with her? And she called her boss, and she's like, and I saw her do this. I'm like, oh no.
Oh man.
Oh no. But then smart that he is, he pivoted. He's like,
Sure.
I have because they, the printers, they'll send stuff to jobs to each other.
Yeah.
So he contacted this one printer and he told them the situation and
We
about the
ran over
size.
there.
And he's like, he can do it. I guarantee you he can do it. So we went over there and
It was just a staple. They used a machine to staple the books. Well, there's no book stapler for that size book
in their location.
So they literally have to hand staple all of these books. So I'm only limited to 100. I can't get no more. They won't do no more than 100 at a time, which I understand. And again, I've been with them. I am now volume number 7 now.
Wow.
I just finished laying out number 7. It's ready to go to the printer. We're going to launch it in November. So the new books are coming out and new t-shirts. But that's a story. It literally, because she tells it better than me, because I thought it was a little girl that said it, not
the girl told her mother.
To
her
her
mother
mom. Yeah. I just know it got planted in my head.
That seed got.
And it literally, I didn't do any regular work for about a month, and I was killing myself. I was literally in a bad mood. I'm like, I don't know what's going on, Lord. What you doing to me, Lord? You just don't want me to create no more? Is this it? And I'm literally in my book, and I'm just creating these one after another, after another, after another. And again, they create a whole new line of Anthony Burks. And again, thank you to my wife and their printer that is still going on after all the time.
And it's wonderful, it's just been another avenue for people to get introduced to your work, and I love those methods where not only can they appreciate the art, but they can be a part of it.
Yes.
I don't know, people, I suppose, tend to think of coloring books as, I don't want to say trivial, but there's a childlike thing there. But I think it's a wonderful, wonderful way for somebody to experience your work and get to be a part of creation with you.
Yes.
It's just excellent.
And this one, again, the adults.
They're fun. Oh my God. Yeah, absolutely.
Than the kids.
The adult coloring book market, I think, has skyrocketed. Probably, I don't know if it was because of COVID or it was around that time that it really started coming up, because
it's been like peaks and valleys, because we started this line like in 2014, 2015.
Yeah, it's been.
So there was a time where they were coming out with all these really cool, unique, books.
Like definitely
women.
geared towards adults.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so we kind of fit right in the market.
Yeah. Because they're like
a lot of people that owns the book, hey, I'm not going to do anything. I said, no, I want you to color the book. I want to see what you created out of all for the mermaids I created, for you to color. I said, I want to see what you came up with. I want to see because I am a color person. So I want to see them in color. So don't put them in a box and store them away and not die. And that's what you won't put them out.
I'm sure it's a little gift to you if anybody ever gets to share, like, hey, colored your page. They send it to you, or you see it on social media, or that's why I like that Norton event at the city place was just so fun. I mean, I know it's, again, it's a lot of work, it's the organization, all those things, but the outcome of seeing people interact with your art and kids and adults get to enjoy and feel like they're a part of something. And it's an entry point that's accessible, which is another just, key to success as an artist,
Absolutely.
Right? Having those entry points where people can engage, they can purchase, it's affordable, they can become a part of this story of being a collector at a range that's available to them.
Yes. Those coloring books have true fans, because during the artist tour that we just came out of, there was a friend not a friend, I know her because she's part of the media. She brought her daughter to that event because her daughter specifically requested to go because she knew that the artist that created that mermaid coloring book was going to be there.
Wow.
So, and I was like, because she gets all my, press releases, and she's like, my daughter, I asked her to pick the one location because we were going to go on this tour, and she picked 0 empty spaces because she wanted to meet the
I
artist.
love that.
Their stories.
Yeah, I forgot to tell you because she was excited to see all the books on the table. I didn't even know they knew about the book. She told me that day. I was like, that is really cool.
That is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So he has got little kid fans too.
definitely. So, okay, I'm thinking of where we want to wrap this up. And the question that I definitely want to get to is with everything that you've been doing, we've been talking about this blueprint kind of that you've been creating for artists of Palm Beach County and beyond to thrive professionally, creatively. If you were given a megaphone right now and, could be speaking to artists, administrations, people in our community, what would you want to be shouting from the rooftops?
Don't neglect your creatives. Understand that they are necessary for your community. And if you neglect them, they're going to move somewhere else. And I've seen it done. I've communicated with artists who were originally from here, have left, and other parts of the country who have moved here because the location they're from. So don't neglect your creatives. Understand that they are necessary for your lives. Period.
Yeah.
Me, just love that gift that was given to you. Don't let no one change it. Don't let no one talk you into being something that you're not. Don't sell your soul cost of $1. Stay true to yourself. The money and all that stuff is coming. If you putting in the work and you being a good person, it's coming back to you 10 times. Just be patient and let everything that's flow where it needs to flow. I always use the word, let it marinate. It needs to marinate. Nobody started off being a great artist at the beginning of their careers. It needed some time to develop, and when it happens, you will know. Even myself, I don't know where my peep is. I don't know. I'm about to touch clay. But yeah, not by accident, but but I'm about to touch clay, and who ever thought that Anthony would be touching any clay? Because I'm a very neat person. I love color pencil because it don't make a mess. I can clean it up in a minute. All that paint on your hands. I'm watching Trina. She got some paint on your hand from the desk. I'm like, I don't need all that. So now I'm about to get in clay that's going to really make a mess at the house. But again, stay true to yourself. Don't allow anyone to get in your head and tell you that you're not doing something great, because it just needs to marinate and need to transform into something one day. It needs to turn into that butterfly.
Yeah. That's perfect. So we've talked about a book coming out for maybe both of you around the same time. Does that sound right?
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Looking at November for the next series release of the Ethnic Mermaids coloring book. And then your next book, which is going to be geared towards professional advice resources for artists of all disciplines, which is excellent. Is there anything coming down the pike about No More Starving Artists that you'd like to share immediately?
Well, we're in the process of applying for some grants, for some opportunities. We're really in our 5-year goal to be able to have a building. We really feel that we need a location for artists to be able to go to, not just communicate with us virtually, but actually be in person. And we're hoping that it'll be a large enough space to be able to do some exhibitions there. So that's one of the main things we're getting ready to do. We just transitioned our secretary to be our treasurer. Now we have a new secretary. So that's changed a lot. And hopefully within the 5 years, we do a membership program. That is definitely something that people have been asking about. But again, I want to make sure that everything is kind of intact before I just roll out an organization with memberships.
Right.
For people to pay. And then they're like, well, what am I paying for?
What are we paying into? Yeah.
So I want to make sure that they, they're investing in something that's going to be valued to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I, again, appreciate you both so much for coming on here. It's been a pleasure. I could definitely get into more. So maybe there'll be a second episode in the future. You might get that email down the road and we'll just have to check in and see what's new. Cause I know, the evolution goes on.
Yeah.
As you know, as we figure out the pivots, as we figure out the climate, what's coming next, there isn't always a clear picture. But I know, I'm always happy to know and see you both in the community and know that you're such active and vital members of the arts community here. And seeing what you do is an inspiration to me and to a lot of people. So I thank you on their behalf as well, because it means a lot. And I'm not saying that to put you up on a pedestal, because I know you're real people and we go through shared struggles, but struggle or no, you are a source of inspiration that things are possible. Let it marinate.
Yes. Let it marinate.
So with that, the last question is just, where can people connect with you? Where can they come visit a studio? They need to check out the website. They need to check out the social media. I know there's quite a few of them, and we are going to link them in the comment section of this. So all the links will be provided, but give us a shout out of where we can connect.
The easiest one for me, if you just want to contact me directly, it's DIZE Image. So Dizzy Image is the way it's pronounced. Okay. All the platforms. So Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, that's how you can find me. Okay. The other ones, like she said, will be in the comments.
Okay, great. Anthony,
you just can, on all the social media platforms, I'm Amp Burks, AMP Burks.
Great.
And that will get you to everything. And shout out to, I'm going to say No More Starving Artists. Yes. Shout out to you. But Zero Empty Spaces, I've been with these guys for going on almost 5 years.
Yeah.
And we might be moving soon. There is someone looking at the building that we're in. So that's the only down part of being with Zero Empty Spaces. You never know when they're going to take it. You never know.
You've had a great long run there, though.
Long run.
Yeah.
And a lot of things have came from being there. And Evan Snow has been by my side the whole time. And I wanted to just shout him out that, bigger things are coming their way, and bigger things are coming my way. Because again, my goal is one day I will never leave Zero Empty Spaces mentally, but physically, my goal is to leave my legacy behind. So I need Anthony Burks Studios.
Yes,
and it's coming.
It's coming.
But I'm always going to be there. I'm the spokesperson for them. I go to all their locations and talk to the artists or convince the artists that this is something that you should think about, being part of, and you cannot beat the rent.
Yeah. No, I've been a part of those studios, and when I was, there were opportunities where I wish I could have been able to stay in those spaces longer, because it's an incredible resource as a working artist, for sure. The program that they've, developed, taking empty commercial real estate and turning it into available, affordable locations for artists, is such a such a huge value. I mean, my God, in Palm Beach County, for sure. But I know they're all over the place. But yeah.
That's the thing.
It's a worthy shout out.
That's what they're going through right now. The real estate is changing. Yeah. So it's finding it harder to find locations for us. So that's my goal is I want to be able to piggyback off what they're doing and give opportunities to other artists to know that they can survive in this crazy world that we live in. That there are those spaces that exist. You just really got to talk to your artists. I think that's a commonality, that we are sharers of information. We're not resource guarders. Yes. When you have something that that could benefit somebody else, you're going to pass that knowledge on. Yeah. Yeah. So thank you again for sharing that and being here. I truly appreciate it. Thanks for sharing your artwork and bringing it in for people to see. I'm just delighted that you came on. And of course, I want to thank all of the viewers, everybody who tuned in and listened to this. Please go out and connect with your local arts community. You can find the links to visit Trina and Anthony's work in our comment in our caption down below. Another thank you, as always, to our sponsor, the Cultural Council for Palm Beach County. We appreciate your support of the arts and of this programming. And I will see you next time on the Artie Girl Podcast.